One of the questions is, how important is employer brand when you have a strong recruiting and sourcing and a great consumer brand recognition? What do you think about that? Because there is always that tension between the consumer brand and the people, and typically that's owned by marketing and the PR organization, and the recruiting team who typically owns the employer brand. What do you do when those two kind of are at odds? Because the consumer brand is usually held pretty tightly, and the recruiting and the employment brand has to kind of follow and basically take the table scraps.
Well, that's where authenticity comes in, right? There are some amazing consumer brands. I won't mention any of them, but I have friends who work for some amazing consumer brands. And as a consumer, that's a brand I always turn to. But when I talk to friends who work for those consumer brands, their impression of the employment brand is almost the antithesis of the consumer brand. And so the consumer brand is all about getting more customers, but when it comes to being authentic to the employees, to the team members, it's almost customers first. You take what you get, and you're just lucky to work here because we have such an amazing consumer brand. That is a disservice to the employment brand and the recruiting team altogether, because it's like we say one thing, but we act another thing, which then really evolves to our employment brand. If you can get those two to meld together, and there are a lot of Silicon Valley tech companies who have succeeded in this, that their brand overall to their customers matches their employment brand, which only drives more highly qualified and talented talent to them to work, because not only are they a loved consumer brand, but they're also a loved employment brand. So it's critical there. But one of the questions here, I think, that was saying is, or I'm interpreting it as, we have great recruiters. Does our brand really matter? Well, yeah. Mario Andretti, I'm dating myself, is an amazing driver. Would you rather have him in a Formula One or a Yugo?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great point. One of the exercises that I did a week ago is I went through and I looked at some different companies. Some of the places, and I'd love to have you comment on this, but I'm going to walk through some of these. Some of the things that I looked at and I mimicked kind of the behavior of a candidate is I went and I looked at some company websites, right? I looked at their website to see, what does the leadership team look like? What have they said about current events, right? What have they said about the things that are happening around racism and equality and inclusion? Are those messages on their website? What does the leadership team have to say when it comes to inclusion and diversity? And not only that, I looked at some of their job descriptions, right? And we're going to get into this a little bit more on how we can handle some of these job descriptions. I looked at their LinkedIn profiles. I looked at their Facebook page. I looked at Glassdoor and the reviews that are there. I looked at the social media posts that they had and some of their employees were posting. What are some things that companies can do to make sure that those properties are inclusive, right? If they want to go from being, hey, we're a company that just has this generic brand and we've really depended on our recruiters and our consumer brand to be successful, how do they now pivot and make sure that they've got that inclusive messaging and branding out there for candidates to be aware of?
So I'm going to talk about this as customers, and I'm going to talk about this as applicants. Some companies have done this very well and realize that the messaging they put out to their customers is the same messaging that applicants are going to consume. Applicants are doing research on your company. That's a fact. Just know that. And so the messaging from a leadership level, from a personal leadership level, applicants are researching that to make sure that those individuals in that company meet those values and priorities that they have, and they're going to select whether or not they're going to work for you based on that messaging. A lot of companies, it's still disjointed. Cody, companies have, hey, we're going to get as many customers as we want because we're going to tell how great our products are. Then when they go after applicants, it's like, do you want to work here? We're going to offer you this or this, and you're just lucky to get to work here. So it kind of goes to what I was saying a moment ago. Those messages have to come together, and what that executive is talking about. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, Cody. Our country right now is under amazing racial unrest and discord. And a lot of companies are putting out some good statements. Other companies aren't sure what to put out. Vet the content that you're putting out. Visit with folks that you're trying to comment to about that content that you're sharing, and validate that what you're saying is true and accurate. Because remember, when we talk from our own perspective. We need to talk to those who are going to receive it and how they're going to receive it. And so we need to make sure that, one, we're not gaslighting and changing and making them think they're insane. Two, that when we say something that doesn't sound offensive to us, maybe it's regionalized, right? It has nothing to do with race, but maybe it's regionalized. Hey, that's not offensive to me, but it's extremely offensive to somebody in the Northeast or the Southwest. And then you layer race and gender and ethnicity and orientation on that. We have to be very careful. I'm not a fan of the term political correctness. Be authentic and be your authentic self, but be kind in what you're saying, and make sure that what you're saying has a kindness factor with authenticity that's going to be engaging. Those comments are the comments and content that candidates and consumers are both going to gobble up and attract them more to your company, your brand, whether it be consumer or employment.
You don't have the expertise in-house or the time to do it, find an expert to help you. That's one of the things that I think will make a big difference. I know we're coming on time, but I want to open up and just to see, are there any other questions? We answered a lot of questions along the way, and let me look and see if I have any questions here. Jeff, do you have anyone bring in questions to you?
No, I think you've covered it.
Perfect. Well, want to thank everyone. Want to thank Scott for joining. You got amazing information. We hope to see you out there and look forward to helping you.
Thanks, Cody. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.